The plane touched down with a soft thud, its wheels kissing the tarmac as we glided back into our routine. The flight had been long, but it didn't matter. I was wrapped in the warmth of our vacation, the places we had explored, the easy rhythm of our days together. We were young, 24 and 27, and our time together had felt endless, full of laughter, shared dreams, and promises. We were still in the early years of our marriage, only 2.5 years in, though our relationship had already spanned 5. 5 years of memories, some interrupted by breaks and distance, but we had always come back to each other. We were a team, weren't we? We had learned to navigate the frictions of family, the occasional bumps of settling into a new country, adjusting to a new life. Everything seemed okay. As the plane's engines quieted, I glanced over at him. He had his headphones in, eyes closed, his body relaxed. His features softened by the exhaustion of travel, but there was a certain peace in his stillness that I envied. Maybe it was because I wasn't as relaxed. Maybe it was because, in the back of my mind, something was waiting to be confronted. We had just spent a blissful week away, basking in the simplicity of time spent together. We had laughed, talked, explored the corners of a place we'd never been. For a few days, I forgot about the stress of moving countries, the weight of adjusting, the oddness of being away from home. In those moments, everything had felt light. But now that we were back, that lightness was beginning to slip away, like sand through my fingers. We gathered our things from the overhead compartment, and as I reached for my bag, I noticed his phone. It was resting on the seat next to him, and for some reason, something inside me made me pause. Maybe it was my instinct. Maybe it was just the way things had felt off in the last few days, something I couldn't explain. But I didn't push it away, I didn't ignore it. I glanced at the screen, only for a second, and saw a message that caught my eye. A conversation that didn't seem to belong. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay composed, but my heart had already started to race. His words were casual, easy, but the content made my stomach twist. There was a woman. A masseuse, to be exact. She offered more than just a regular massage, pain massage, she called it, and her message hinted at something more than what I expected. Something that felt out of place. My mind didn't know how to process it, not at first. I read the exchange quickly, each word imprinted in my mind like a stamp on my soul. Why hadn't I known? Why hadn't he told me? The questions bubbled up, but I forced them down, steadying myself. I couldn't make any decisions now, not in this moment. I couldn't react before I understood what was happening. We disembarked, and the journey back home felt longer than it should have. I held the phone in my hand, feeling the weight of the conversation more than I wanted to. He hadn't gone, he had said. It was just an inquiry, a thought. But could it be that simple? Could curiosity explain it away? Could it explain the tension that suddenly hung in the air between us? As we walked through the airport, side by side, everything seemed normal on the surface. His smile was warm, easy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping away beneath that smile. I didn't know how to voice it. It felt too fragile to name, too raw to admit. It was then that I realized I couldn't just forget this. Not yet. Not until I understood it. Not until I could reconcile what I had seen with the man I thought I knew. It was too early to tell if it was a momentary lapse, a harmless curiosity, or something more. But I knew one thing for sure. It had changed something, even if I couldn't name it. We drove home in silence, the city lights flashing by outside the window. And I thought about the future, about us, about what this meant, about how we would handle the space that had suddenly grown between us. Was this just the beginning of something bigger? Or was it an isolated incident? Only time would tell. I hadn't planned to look. I hadn't even intended to open his phone. But there it was, the message that seemed to hang in the air like a secret I wasn't meant to know. His phone had been on the seat next to him, and in that brief, unspoken moment, it had caught my eye. The message had been innocent enough at first glance, but something in the way it was phrased made my heart skip a beat. There was a woman, a masseuse. I wasn't unfamiliar with the concept of massages. We had talked about them before, even joked about booking one for relaxation. But this was different. Her words, her tone, The offer she made, it wasn't just a professional interaction. There was an implication, a suggestion, a promise of something more. Pain massage. Her words echoed in my mind. She was offering not just relief from soreness, but something deeper, something more intimate. My thoughts swirled as I stood there, staring at the screen. I could feel the room beginning to close in on me. The hum of the airport, the hurried steps of passengers, none of it seemed to matter anymore. His response to her felt casual. He had asked about pricing, about availability. He had shown interest. It was enough to leave me breathless. Why? Why did he need this? Was it the stress of our move? Was it just curiosity? Or was it something else entirely? I looked over at him then, his face peaceful, unaware of the storm beginning to build inside me. He had his headphones in, eyes closed, but something in me felt as if I were seeing him through a different lens. A part of him was slipping away from me, and I didn't know how to hold on. I couldn't shake the unease that now sat deep in my chest, a knot that wouldn't loosen no matter how much I tried to rationalize it. As we moved through the airport, he was still the man I loved, the one I had known for so long. But something had shifted. I wasn't sure how to speak about it. The words weren't clear in my head yet, and I didn't want to accuse him without understanding what had really happened. What if it was a harmless inquiry? What if it meant nothing? But what if it meant everything? It wasn't long after we got home that I brought it up. We were in the kitchen, unpacking our things, when I simply couldn't hold it in any longer. The weight of it was suffocating. I needed answers, even if I wasn't sure what those answers would reveal. Can we talk about something? I asked, my voice calm but with an edge I couldn't hide. He looked up from his bag, brow furrowing slightly. Sure, what's up? I didn't waste any time. I saw something on your phone, a message with a woman. A masseuse. You were asking her about some kind of massage. He froze. His face turned pale for just a moment, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind. Was he trying to remember, to justify what he had said? Or was he afraid I'd misunderstood? He started, his voice faltering for a second before he cleared his throat. It wasn't anything. Just a conversation. I was curious about the service she offered. His words felt distant, but there was sincerity in his eyes. He seemed genuine, but I couldn't help but wonder if he was being entirely truthful. Curious? I asked softly. Why would you be curious? We've never talked about something like that before. Why her? He hesitated, and in that pause, I felt the silence stretch between us like a chasm. It's nothing really. I just thought it might be relaxing, you know? Just wanted to ask some questions. His explanation sounded hollow, even to him, and I knew it. But I didn't want to accuse him. Not without knowing more. I pressed further, softly. But why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you mention it before? We could have talked about it. I didn't think it would matter, he said quickly, too quickly. It was just one message. It wasn't anything serious. The conversation didn't bring the resolution I had hoped for. I understood his words, but the knot in my chest remained. I wanted to believe him, I truly did. But the doubt lingered, like a fog that refused to clear. I didn't know how to let go of it. It wasn't the message itself that disturbed me, it was what it symbolized. Why had he sought this out? Was I not enough? Was our intimacy not enough? I had always thought we shared everything, and yet this felt like a secret that didn't belong. For days, I carried this with me, this weight that I couldn't shake. He was back to his usual self, affectionate, kind, trying to smooth over the tension, but I felt a distance growing between us. Not in the way we spoke, but in the way we were together. I wanted to trust him, to let go of the nagging thought in the back of my mind that this could happen again. But how could I? He had left for work that morning, as he always did. Another routine, another day. I went about mine, trying to focus on the small things, the errands, the household tasks, but it was impossible to ignore the thought that crept into my mind like a shadow. What if it wasn't just an inquiry? What if he went back? What if this time he did more than ask? I couldn't stop imagining it. I didn't want to imagine it. But the thought lingered, whispering to me in the quiet moments. What if he couldn't stop? What if this wasn't a one-time mistake, but the beginning of something deeper? What if it was a reflection of a deeper desire, something I couldn't fulfill? Would he look for more? Would he keep going, looking for satisfaction elsewhere? I didn't know what I feared more, the possibility of losing him, or the realization that I was already losing him in small, unnoticed ways. A week passed, and things settled into a quiet kind of routine. He swore that it was the first and last time, that nothing would happen again. I wanted to believe him. He said he would work on it, on us, that this wouldn't happen again. But the doubt still lingered. Could I believe him? Could promises truly undo what I had seen? Could the trust that had been built over the years withstand this crack, this break in the foundation? He held me close one night, his hands warm against my back as he whispered that he loved me. "This is it," he said softly. "I swear. This is the first and last time." I didn't know if I could believe him, but in that moment, I wanted to. I still don't know what to think. The days go by, and we try to move forward. I want to let go, to trust him again, to heal from what I saw. But there's always a part of me that wonders, that questions. Will I ever truly forget? The future feels uncertain now. What if the promises weren't enough? What if this was just the beginning of something much larger? I don't know. But I do know this: I love him. And maybe love is enough to fight for.